Afternoon and welcome back to Between the Arcs for a very special dinner time episode, Deadly's favourite time of the day. I'm the horse, and joining me is a man that's over in Perth, and as a fun fact, he's just had breakfast. The Turls, how you doing, mate?
I haven't just had breakfast too. It was beautiful. I'm not going well, mate. This is a nice early friendly time slot. Hopefully no one from work's watching.
Yeah, hopefully not. And over on the ends, I run out of bad things to say about this guy, so I may as well throw in something good. Yeah, how you going, Deadly?
Yeah, good, mate. Yep. You've already insulted me once so far, and we've been live for 49 seconds. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah. By the way, it's not dinner time. Thank you very much. It's breakfast. Hurls is right. It's breakfast right about now.
Breakfast.
Woke up 3 hours ago, so yeah, I got nothing better to do, so I'm here.
Let's talk SuperCoach. So this episode, ladies and gentlemen, is talking about the must-have players in this year's AFL SuperCoach team picker. You may agree with some, you may not, but for us, these are the guys that are pretty much non-negotiables. Whether it is we're talking about you're starting with them in the first few rounds, or whether we're waiting for their early buys to finish up, and then we're bringing them in. These players are players that you're going to want to target early on to make sure you at home are right at the pointy end come season's end. If you haven't yet, I don't know why, but like, subscribe, bell, hype, thumb, everything. Love it. If you're listening to us on audio, 5-star reviews help keep the lights on here at Between the Arcs. So, lads, we're going to get stuck straight into it. We'll start from the back line, and there's two players from the same team. We'll start with one and then we'll go to the other. But when we're talking St Kilda and the way that these two players use the ball, their efficiency, they're such SuperCoach friendly games. I'll start with you, Hurls. We'll start with Jack Sinclair. He's got to be one of the non-negotiables, giving his points per minute, the way that he scores without Nas in that back line, but also the ceiling that he's got. And it looks like almost free run down there as the number one ball user.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned up front that not all of these guys are going to be must starts, but they are must haves, because I think that's where these two blokes both fit in. If you're going to start them, I can understand it, but you don't have to start both of these because of the early buy, because they are, fully priced. They're over 600,000, both of them. I could live with a world without starting them, but I think by the time their mid-season buy is over, you are going to want one or both of these two blokes. I do love that Sinclair is less owned, and I do love that Sinclair looks like he's going to have even more kick-ins this year. Nas, yes, he'll still come down from the midfield every now and then like he did late last year, but we saw in the last 7 games, I think it was 120 plus 6 of the last 7 for Sinclair. That's massive.
Yep. An average of well over 120, even with Nas not in the back line, which means, as you just nailed, he's got the monopoly on all ball use, kick-ins, and all that sort of jazz down there. Deadly, with Nas, he sort of towards the back end of last year established himself as one of the more elite players when we're talking SuperCoach. It is a fairly exy price with that early buy, and the fact that they share a buy with other common teams who we're looking to grab players from in this year's AFL SuperCoach team picker. Where do you see the priority for Nas? Can you see people fading and picking him up after their early buy, or when should we strike when it comes to Nas?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because for me personally, I think you've got to start one of them. Even though there is the early buy there, it's only really shared with the Giants. And, the top 4 defenders last year also all share the same early buy. And it's you got to make a decision on which one to go for. And I think the two Saners look the more guaranteed to be decent, like top 6 defenders. Nas interests me in the midfield. Where do we go with him? How does it look? I'm just quickly trying to get his CBA numbers up from last year. But Jack Sinclair, it's going to be the fact he's so low owned is quite odd to me. But yeah, it's a very interesting discussion point.
Yep. It's a good question, isn't it, Hurls? Who gets tagged, Sinclair or Nas? I would say, personally, Nas, because Nas is that game breaker. He's more damaging with the ball. Teams are going to want to negate his influence on the game, whereas teams would be happy for Sinclair just to get his chip mark across half back.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think if you're going to tag someone, it's going to be Nas. We did see Nas go into the midfield and he scored really well, but it's a small sample when we're talking about Nas as a midfielder. We're talking about sort of, 7, 8 weeks. We're not talking about 4 years. Whereas Sinclair, you've got 4, 5, 6 years of data where he was the only seagull back there, and I think he's going to go back to that. So I think the tag question is a good one, but I think Nas will get priority. And there's not that many tags anymore. Let's be honest; it's not as heavily, important as it used to be.
No, you're right.
Here we go. I got a bit of an interesting one for you. So when Nas was rotating between midfield and half back for the back end of the season, he had, in the last 6 rounds, he had 12 kick-ins. Jack Sinclair had, quick maths, hang on, about 33.
Okay.
So
yeah,
there's a little interesting one. And take Nas out of it completely. Jack Sinclair had 9 in the last game. Nas had 0. And Cal Wilkie was the other one who got the kick-ins. But Sinclair just gets a massive jump on him without Nas.
And he was already at 46%. So he's going to sort of, you'd think he's going to be 50%, which is as good as any team in the comp. There's not too many that go above 50% for their team.
Yeah, that's right. When we're talking other backs, so we've spoken about Nas, we've spoken about Sinclair. One being probably a priority right from the start, even though he's very low owned. One being someone that you can perhaps wait until they're early buy and it passes and you go and grab them. There's the likes of Ash and Whitfield. They both share a buy with the Saints boys. But then we've got the likes of Connor Rozee with that real early buy. No buy, but the real early fixture that is so favourable for SuperCoach hurls. Is he a must-have for you or a must-start?
Yeah, as close to a must-start as I probably consider anyone. Like I'm not one to say you have to start any primo. I think as long as you have a really good idea of where you rank people and you have sort of some tiers in mind, then I don't really mind which of the 1 or 2 you go in that tier. But for me, Rozee is definitely going to be in my starting team. I can't ignore that early run. The no buy presents, a huge benefit. And I think we saw last year him going to that half back line just makes him a really valuable SuperCoach player.
100%, mate. As we can see here with our buy planner at Between the Arcs, they do have that round 0 buy, but they go North Melbourne, Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda in their first 5 games. 5 of the best 6 teams to play against in SuperCoach. It's very hard to ignore, isn't it, Deadly?
100%, mate. And, he only had 5 scores under 100, and a couple of them were taking out injury-related games at halfback last year, which is just absolute gold. Only thing with Rozee that really, really irks me is even when he was down back, Kane Farrell was getting the majority of the kickouts. It's not that big of a deal for Rozee because we know how good he is around the ground getting the ball. But just a little, sort of stunts his like D1 potential, but something like that.
Yep, absolutely. Now we can talk about other players like McKercher, Coleman. There's question marks over these guys. When we're talking rookies, though, hurls, if we see Josh Lindsay from West Coast, 122K, in that defensive role, using the ball off half-back, or even Jai Sarong, locked into that back 6 role with Sydney, both of them have got to be must-start options given their potential for cash generation, but also pumping out some decent scores for us. Sarong averaged, 91, 92 in the VFL the last couple of years? So there's scoring potential. 97. Sorry. So there's scoring potential there.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say rookies are must-haves yet because we don't know, obviously, if they're going to start. But with the proviso that they are in the starting team for round 1, and Jai Sarong we get to see round 0, which is even more helpful because we'll actually get to see if he plays and what role he plays, etc. But those are probably the 2 rookies I would say have the most scoring upside. There's probably a couple of others that have good job security, like a Gibcus, but I think the scoring upside, Sarong and Lindsay are right up there. If they're in the team round 1, most people are going to jump all over them.
Absolutely. Let's crack into our midfield. That's going to be brought to you by the good guys at Stromcrete. If you're planning a new driveway, shed slab, entertaining area, pathway, or anything concrete, get it done properly the first time with the team you can trust. hit the link in the description below. Tell them that us, Between the Arcs, or SuperCoach Insight sent you, and you'll get 10% off any job that they do and a free quote. Ripper blokes there at Stromcrete. Deadly midfielders. Who's your number one must-have here?
Zack Butters. And who's that one? Oh, Zack Butters. Yeah, just take him. No early buy. We just spoke about the run that they have. And my God, if he's not, I'll be astounded if he's not the top averaging player in the game after the first 5 rounds.
He's one of those captaincy options, isn't he, Hurls, that you can almost look to each round in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, in my first team, I had both Bontempelli and Butters, and I'm starting to find some reasons why I could fade Bont. I haven't found a reason yet why I would fade Butters. I haven't seen one. I think the run, as we've said with Rozee, is magical. No buy. He's proven he can get the big 150s for you to whack the VC and C on. I think he's going to be the most popular of those primos. And this year you've got 16 of the top 19 primos who have an early buy. He's one of 3 who doesn't. So I think he's going to be extremely popular.
Has to be. And as Cheese says here, categorically, might I add, you're getting 180 out of this guy in one of these games. And when you've got that VC or C on him, depending on which way you use your loops, if you choose to loop early, this guy could be your man. Hurls, who else would you consider a must-have?
I think for me, there's too many. There's a lot of great primos, and I think there's some pods you can target. I would jump straight down. I don't know if you agree with this, Deadly. I'd jump from Butters being the primo mid that I'd say is a must-have, and the next guy I would go to mid-price. I'd say Hayden Young is my next midfield must-have, purely because we know what he can do. The cash gen he's going to make if he's in that Fremantle midfield. They want him with the ball in his hands. I think he's a must start. And my rule that many follow in SuperCoach, not just mine, if you're going to start these injury-prone guys, better to start them than to buy into them later. So I think Young is my next one.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's you make a good point about skipping over the other primos. You've got your Sarongs and your Gouldens and these sorts of guys who are in a lot of teams, but they're not really must-haves. You can go their counterparts in Heedy and Brayshaw, or you can go other guys who have similar runs and whatnot with the early buys, the Bailey Smiths and the like. But yeah, Hayden Young, he should get a decent crack at it this year with a full preseason, and bearing from now to round 1, he doesn't get injured. I think a lot of people will have him in his team, and it's for very good reason.
I agree. I'm going to go as far to say that his points per minute is exactly what we want. And if he stays healthy for even 10 games, he's going to be scoring near on like a primo if he's in that midfield role there at Fremantle. Pardon me. Fremantle, West Coast are bloody enemies, aren't they? Darcy Parish, Deadly, at Essendon. Very, very discounted, almost to the point where he's half price of what he was a couple of years back. For me, if his body's right, this guy's a must-have as well. Like there's just so much upside there.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. There is way too much upside, but it's once again comes down to the question of, can we get 8 games out of him to get the money that we want? Look, he hasn't done it since 2021 or something. Hurls. If we can get 8 games out of him, then. I'd be happy as an Essendon fan, but as also a SuperCoach man as well.
Yeah, I think even 6 is probably okay, because you would imagine he's going to average between 95 and 110, right? That's Parish does that with his eyes closed when he's fit. The thing that and there's a few comments, and we will talk about some of these other guys, like why is Bont not a must-have and all of that. This is all personal choice, right? Like everyone would have different guys that they love. To me, the guys like Parish and Young are must-haves, because if you don't go here and they work when they're 50-something% owned, and I think last I looked, Young was at 50%, Parish was probably something similar. I haven't got the numbers right in front of me. If you get this wrong, you are stuffed, because your cash gen, these guys are making you 150 and 200,000. If you get Bont wrong, as long as your replacement scores okay, you can still keep up, if that makes sense. So this
Yep.
is why I'm saying these guys are must-haves and Bont isn't. I'm not going to talk anyone out of Bont, let's be honest, but I don't put him in the must-have category because everyone above 600,000 without fail will drop below 600,000 at some stage during the year. And so it's just how the maths works.
Yeah, it does.
My one little thing with Darcy Parish, and this isn't, this is just to create an argument. Do we reckon that there is a possibility that he sort of not gets eased back into it, but sort of plays a lot less minutes with the Essendon midfield options we have? We got Merritt, Durham, Caldwell, Dyson Sharp can run through there. Jacob Farrar could run through there if need be. There's a lot of guys that could run through there if they do want to put Darcy on the bench for extended time. And if he only plays 70 minutes, the upside's struggling.
Not if match seems anything to go by.
No.
Yeah, well,
straight in.
Historically, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 1.1 points per minute consistently. So even if he's only getting 100 minutes and spending 30 minutes of that on the bench, he's still scoring us 110 on average.
It's just an argument starter. It's he's a must-have for me too.
And something I'll put to you, Deadly, before we move on to our next player. You could have potentially Parish and Hayden Young for less than purchasing Bont.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, that's not also saying that you should just fill up on mid prices, because that just won't ever work. But yeah, there's definitely always a few guys that pop up at this mid price level that can make or break seasons. And Hurls has preached it for the past 2 years. He's been with us that these are the guys that make or break your season from the jump. So yeah. Getting the mid prices right is always very important.
Just want to address this one, Horse. This is I get what you're saying. I think the trouble with the reason Parish is so discounted is because we know, he can't get his body right. He hasn't been able to get his body right. So if he gets, let's say he gets 100 and 100 first 2 weeks, nothing stupid, but 200s is par for the course, I would say, for him. The trouble is if you have a failed pick like a Heaney or something, I think you mentioned in that, or a Dawson, and you go down, and then Parish gets injured the week after, there's 2 trades. You're already a trade behind everybody else. I'm not saying all right, season over might be a little bit over the top, but I think the heavily discounted injury-prone guys, I'd either start them or I'd ignore them. That's my take anyway. Like Treloar is like this for me, but he's in the completely fade and I'm not going there. I don't care what he gets. Whereas for Parish, I'm starting him. I wouldn't buy into these guys after a couple of weeks personally.
For sure. Now we talk about primos, we talk about mid-price players in Young and Parish, but Deadly and non-negotiable with rookies. It's got to be Jacob Smith, doesn't it? He looks like he's going to break out in a big way this year.
Yeah, I mean, the clips I've seen from him down at Icon Park, that this kid is going to be a freak. And we sort of knew it coming into the draft last year. He's a special talent, and he was doing some unreal things in the VFL before he jumped into the draft pool. Carlton snapped him up and then unfortunately tore his ACL. And that just means we get this guy who's going to be a future superstar of our game at even cheaper. And I can almost guarantee you he'll be one of the only Carlton players that ever enters my team this year.
Probably the same with Hurls too.
No, I've got one more, but yeah, it's close. They won't be there for very long, though. Deadly, you've seen a lot more of him than I have. I'm going more on hearsay and hype. What kind of role can we expect him to play when he's running out there for the Blues round 1?
I actually think the role is going to be a bit better than what I thought it was going to be last year. So I was expecting last year, and we saw it in a couple of the practice matches he played, it was mainly half forward with the occasional midfield time. I think it's going to be the same role, but more mid than half forward, which is pretty good. He's had a full year in the gym, getting his body right during this injury. It's only going to work in the favour for him of, he's got some AFL minds around him. He's been with the team for a year now. It's only going to work in his favour. And I think we see a fair whack of midfield time for him.
Definitely. Yeah. Would you say Dyson Sharp Hurls enters the must-have category if we see him lining up round 1?
I'm a little bit more lukewarm on him as a must-have. Okay. He will be in my team if he's in the Essendon team round 1, and I think he'll be in most teams. But I just think we mentioned this about Parish before. Essendon are going to probably play him in some varied roles. It's really hard. We've seen this with a few of these young kids. It's hard to play centre bounce exclusively as an 18-year-old. Although Sharp does have a body that will allow him to play more than the average 18-year-old, I still think we have to temper the expectations a little bit. But I'm being a little bit hypocritical. He'll be in my team round one. I don't want to necessarily say you have to have him. Like, it's these rookies. I think Jagger Smith I'd go first if I had to pick between the two, even though I'll probably start both of them.
Yep. That's fair. Let's move on to our rucks, lads. We talk about...
Do we have to? Do we have to?
Yeah.
Ruck.
Ruck. It's always been the Gawn Grundy, Fade Gawn, or, Brodie Grundy or Tristan Cherry. These three seem to be at the top of the tree year in and year out. Brodie Grundy had a couple of down years and last year popped back onto the scene massively. Is there anyone else, lads, in that ruck line that you would consider a must-have? So we know with the new ruck rules, it could potentially favour someone like a Luke Jackson, who can be a ruck and will no doubt play ruck at times, but when he's playing as an on-baller and your Sean Darcy's of the world can't get to those bounces or ball ups around the ground, and he's all of a sudden matched up on someone that's 6'3" and he's 6'9", or however tall he is. There could be some scope there for some serious Supercoach gold there with Luke Jackson hurls.
I think there could, but I wouldn't put any of these guys in the must-have category just because I can pick holes in nearly every single one of them. Like the added little bonus that you didn't mention about Jackson is, yes, as a midfielder, he hasn't been an elite scorer yet. And so, his biggest scores are solo ruck. But we know that Darcy is injury prone, so he may end up solo ruck at some point. So you've got a little bit of an upside there. Yes, the new rules should suit him, but there's enough uncertainty in the whole ruck line for me to say all of these guys at 600K plus aren't must-haves. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side of that is you can't start without any of them, because who are you going to put in if you don't put one of these top six? And I'm completely baffled in the ruck, to be completely fair. Draper was going to be my ruck strategy because I wanted to buy time, and now that's out the window with his injury today. So I really haven't decided what I'm doing in the ruck. If I could find a mid-pricer that I trusted, I'd probably go that way, but I just can't see one. And people keep throwing up Dante Vicentini's name. Please, he is absolute rubbish. I'm not going there for 300K.
Yep, no. I've started this. No, if Dante starts as Port's ruck one, I will be shocked. Everything I'm hearing out of Port camp, I've seen news articles saying Dante's been good and whatnot, but it's going to be Jordan Sweet. They're not going to change that.
I agree with you. 100%. We see Port, say with North Melbourne. So Tristan Cherry, he's got Port. So it's a Jordan Sweet. West Coast, Flynn, Essendon, fuck all. Carlton, Shitnet. That's quite a good start to the year usually, but we want to see how that's going to work. Even with Melbourne, St Kilda, TDK could get on the other end of him, and then they've got Rowan Marshall. So that may turn into a tougher matchup than last year. Freo away, who knows? Carlton away, which is at the G anyway. Gold Coast, Wits. We don't really know, do we, lads? But then we go to Sydney, Carlton, Shitnet. No doubt Sydney, Grundy will have his way with him. Brisbane, it looks like it'll be Darcy Fort to start with. Hawthorn away, Lloyd Meek, and then a bye. So there's no one really that jumps out off the page. If we go on last year's numbers, we're probably looking at Cherry there, but we don't know at the moment, do we?
No. I think Cherry's probably the one that, even if he comes off a bit, like in terms of regress, let's say all the rucks regress. Let's assume that all of them regress 10%. That wouldn't be that crazy that happens. Sherry's probably the one that has the draw that you might not see it. The risk here is, and this is what I'm struggling with the most in the ruck. I know this is a must-have episodes and we're being a bit hypocritical because we're saying none of them are. Who you spend 600K plus on should ideally be in your team the whole year. And if you go the wrong one and you get stuck with them, even if Sherry goes good for 4 weeks and then all of a sudden he doesn't after that, you're sort of stuck. So this is a hard one for me. I wouldn't have any of them must have. And I think just go with your gut on what way you think the rucks are going to play out, because I don't think anyone really knows.
Hurls, what are the chances, right, during practice matches and even after practice matches that you have at least had each one of these 600 plus K rucks in your team at any point?
It's happened already for me.
I reckon it's pretty likely that each of these top 6 guys have touched.
It's already happened, with the exception. The only one I haven't had in my team yet of the top 6 is Darcy Cameron. The other 5 I have had in my team. And even at the moment, I did a little bit of experimenting today of what might my team look like if I have to bite the bullet and go Gawn and Sherry. And you have to make some big sacrifices elsewhere to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that, but I've even tinkered with that. I don't know, Deadly. If I could get, if you said to me Sweet is going to play 6 weeks, I'd probably lean on him at the price. TDK is someone I might even go with, even though I hate your rucks. Anyway, I hate this line. It's probably not a good conversation for a must-have episode.
All right, let's just, is it Liam Reedy and potentially Mitch Edwards, who has come up lately as potentially the number 1 ruck at Geelong?
I don't think he's ready, to be honest.
Reckon?
I haven't seen much from this year, but from what I saw of him last year, I still don't think he's ready. But
the drums are getting louder, Deadly.
Maybe things have changed, but when I was watching the VFL last year, definitely not ready. But definitely could have changed. I'll have to do some more looking into that. Yep. But for everyone, it seems like the ruck's been the biggest issue. I haven't changed my ruck in about 5 weeks, and I've been thrilled with it. So
Deadly's found a way to put Campbell Chester and Ben Keys in his rucks.
Don't you utter that first name ever again.
I honestly wish that Lockie Blackiston was listed as a ruckman, because he would be one I would be comfortable starting, but he's just not. So we don't have that option.
Let's move on to our forwards, lads. And Harry Sheasel is the big one. 109K. 109 average, 580 odd K. We had a conversation just before we came on air, and I'm looking forward to picking your brain, Earls, because for 75, 76% of the community, they've got him locked and loaded. You don't.
No. So I just mentioned why my experiment to go with Gawn and Sherry needed a sacrificial lamb. And as I looked through the mids that I had and the defenders that I had, Sheasel was the only one I could really think about that I could potentially sacrifice, and just sacrifice the whole forward line if you like. Mm-hmm. So it would be a huge stretch for me to stay this way. It's more an experiment. I think he's as close to a must-have as there is, Sheasel. But when I was mucking around, I didn't want to get rid of the mids who I thought will go 120s. And then I thought, could I get rid of Sheasel? And that's the way I lent, but I don't like it either. I think he's close to a must-have.
Deadly?
Yeah, he's locked in for me. I'm not even considering taking him out.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the buys, I'd say Christian Petracca would nearly be a must-have up forward. That run that Gold Coast have early on as well, we look at it here, and they've got Geelong at home. We know the last couple of years they've beaten Geelong by 10 goals and gave them a thumping another time. Round 1, they've got Freo at home. Then they've got, they've got West Coast at home. They'll give them a pumping. Richmond away. That round 3 bye is very tough with Hawthorn, Sydney, and the Bulldogs. But then they've got Melbourne away. That's a big game for Petracca. Sydney, gather round. Essendon at home. The rest of that first part of the draw there up until round 12, lads, it's really, really inviting for the Gold Coast Footy Club.
Yeah, it's not bad, but the round 3 bye kills it for me.
Oh,
and I see a lot of, I've had like, we've had discussions with people on Twitter about this, Hells, about they're talking about if you don't own Petracca for the first 2 weeks against Richmond and West Coast and Richmond, what's the point of bringing him in? You know what I mean? It's like you do that, and you've got 522K sitting on the bench, and then you've also probably it's as much as people don't think it is, with only the 2 10s in the bye, that round 3 bye has been a big issue, with St Kilda and Gold Coast both providing awesome rookie options and
well, let's have a look at that, Deadly. Gold Coast, you've got Petracca, Sydney. Is it Charlie Curnow if you want to get spicy? Bulldogs, you've got Darcy, Hawthorn, Dylan Moore. So there's definitely relevant.
Not even just forward options, mate. There's
options all over the ground. Yeah,
Golden. There's a bunch of rookies: Sarong, Kyle, Lombard. Newland. There's all these guys. You can't have too many of them. And I don't know. I understand starting a Gold Coast player, but you got to pick and choose. And Petracca is probably not the one for me to start.
I'm a bit the same. In a must-haves sort of sense, I would say no. But I was convinced a little bit by our man Flanders in our debate last week that the starting run is something to consider. I haven't caved and bought him in, but my rationale is a bit like you, Deadly. At the moment, I'm committing to one Gold Coast primo, and the one that I like most is Nando's. So Anderson is currently in my team, and that means that I can't go Petracca as well. I could, but it would mean I'd have to flick something else. So just every move you make, you have to think about what impact that has. So I wouldn't have Petracca must have, but I do like the early run. I think people are going to own him and, be okay with that. If he gets 140s, it'll hurt me as a non-owner. If he gets 100s, I think that hurts them as an owner. So it's almost rolling the dice a little bit on this one for me.
Yeah. Lads, Sam Flanders. We're not going to get too much into it, but is this a case, Deadly, of if you're not picking him with the monopoly of inside mid-time that he's going to get, you're trying to outthink the room?
This is Jack McRae last year, but more obvious and more upside. So why not just take him?
Yeah, I'd compare him to Baz Smith even of last year.
Yeah, just, mate, any I can't think of any other forwards of the past that were like this, but it's the most obvious pick you'll take, I reckon, this year.
If you said to me, pick one must-have for the whole competition, this is it.
Yeah, okay, easy.
Love it. We could talk about Matthias Philippou, but we've seen the training reports. We know the words that's coming out of St Kilda. He's just a lock and load, whether it be F4, F5, F6, however you want to roll that there in your forward line. But Deadly, one that I would nearly consider a must-have at 147K in our forward lines is someone who isn't spoken about when we're talking the superstars of the competition, but we know this guy's got an elite set of hands and he's been training in that third defender role where he's cutting across and taking those intercept marks. It's Todd Marshall.
Let's put a big asterisk on this first as well. If he somehow finds his way back up forward, which at this point I don't think he will, I'm not interested at all. But as a third tall down back, mate, lock and load, and he's been taking a few kick-ins in training as well. If we got a Farrell, Rozee, Marshall as the 3 kick-ins, that's quite nice. I do like that. Yeah, lock and load if he's in that round 1 port team with that run.
Hurls, anything you'd like to add there?
No, I tend to agree. I think the forward line at the moment, I don't mind a 3 rookie on-field setup because I think Philippou and Marshall give you some look. They're not the 18-year-olds, right? So they've been in the system a while. They should give you 65 pluses as a floor, and so I like that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think as long as with that same asterisk, as long as he's in the back line.
Yeah, Leo Lombard as well. For me, if he's starting on a wing, God knows whether he's going to get 0%, 10%, 2% of midfield time there at the Gold Coast. But at bottom dollar, playing on the wing, he could be a Rocks or Diamonds type of player. He could score you 100 and then score you 40 the next week. But if you're using him as a cash generator, there's definite upside there, Deadly.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's the same sort of thing with Jagger Smith. Not the same greatness of player, same good role, but it's, injured, missed a fair whack of time, but he still had the year in the system, the other year in the gym. It's just a rookie that's not technically a rookie, which is what we actually like to see.
Yeah.
Didn't our man Flanders get some interesting debate going on his Twitter post with he mentioned CBAs and everyone jumped down his neck and in the end, do we care if he gets CBAs? This guy's 119K. If he's best 23, I couldn't care less if he gets not one CBA for the year. He'll still be in my team as long as he's playing. 100%.
This is all about cash generation. This isn't a guy that's going to score you hundreds week in and week out. This is the guy that we're hoping makes us, let's say, 200K, 250K. He does his job, and then we can move him into a primo and happy days. Is there anyone else, Hurls, that you think we've missed?
Probably not as a must-have. The rest have got some speculation about them. I think we've covered the main ones. If I had to rank the whole comp, my top 3 would be Flanders 1, Butters 2, Rozee 3.
Sheasel 4.
Yeah, she's probably his 4, but I had to drop him out because I haven't even thought about dropping the other 3 out, Deadly, so they have to be ahead. Whereas I have thought about dropping Sheasel out, even though I won't probably stay that way. So yeah, they're my top 3. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know probably, but they're probably the 3 that I just haven't tinkered once with those 3 coming out of my team.
Is your top 3 any different, Deadly?
Yeah, most probably Flanders 1. Butters 2. Yeah, probably Rozee is probably the same. Maybe Sheasel instead. There's a couple of rookies I really like, but out of the main guys, yeah, definitely Flanders, Butters, and Rozee.
Yeah, Flanders is definitely there, but when we're talking primos, Sheasel, Butters, and Jack Sinclair for me.
Nice.
I
like the Sinclair shout. I like that Sinclair shout. Is he still like 2% or 3% owned?
He was about 5.
Yeah, he's probably going to be 55.
Actually, speaking of which, I've been doing some digging. Remember the old Harry Kyle ownership watch? He's up from 3.1% to about 6 point something. So he's on the climb.
Jeez,
you're giving the secret away, Deadly.
The only thing bigger than his ownership is Deadly's head when he gets that close to the camera hurls. So a couple of questions here that we want to get into. The price per minute. Price per point is an interesting topic because, for instance, someone like Bont has huge upside as a VCC if you use him that way. But if it's not a waste, Hurls?
Yeah. And I think this goes to the other argument about, do you start Parish? And if you don't start Parish, it's a really interesting one from a dollar per point of view. Do you go down or do you go up? Like you could go to a primo, but then you're paying 550,000. So if Parish matches that 550,000, you're miles behind on a dollars per point basis. So I think this is where the value kicks in. But the one thing I will say that is just a word of caution. We're all got confirmation bias when it comes to SuperCoach. So of course the people we like, we think they're gonna achieve their best case scenario. So when I talk about Parish, I'm going to say, yeah, he's going to get 100, sure. When I talk about McKercher, because he's in my team, I'm going to say, yeah, he's going to get 110 for sure. Doesn't mean these always happen. We know that last year there were these mid-prices are mid-prices for a reason. They don't always work. Even the primos, you might get a bloke who averages 115 for the year, so you think, great, that was M8. But if you bought him in your starting team and he started the year at 110, he's going to annoy you. Versus the guy who starts at 140 and tapers off, you wanted at the start and then jumped off. So timing can be everything in SuperCoach.
100%. Deadly, thoughts on Jai Caldwell?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair option, but for me, it's how many Essendon guys can you take with this in this midfield? We're all probably going to take Parish and Sharp, and do we really want a third guy as well in Caldwell? I'm not so sure. I do think he's in for a good year though.
Cheese. Can we get an argument for Bont as a must-have? The bloke averaged 130 off virtually piss all pre-season and late start of the season last year. He was injured for about 4 weeks from memory, or 6. I can't remember exactly how many it was.
I mean, yeah, he had a full pre-season, just got injured in the practice match.
Yeah,
but
I'll mount the case. I think if you can structure your team around starting him, do it. Like I've had him in my team the whole time. The only time I'm now starting to tinker a little bit is if I have to start 2 primo rucks, where do you take that money from? And so that's the only time I'm even thinking about removing Bont. Now, the case for not starting him is obvious. He's going to go probably below 600, maybe let's say 600 the floor. He might not go to 580. Let's say 600. That's $106,000 you can save by buying him after his buy if you get the timing right. But the other thing is it's hard to jump to the 630K blokes and a lot easier to jump to the 540K blokes. So it is hard to get Bont in if you don't start him. I think that's the case for starting him if you just go, that's M1, put him in, forget about it. It could go pear-shaped if he gets injured or he gets 2 or 3 low scores like he did when he started last year. I think he got a couple of sub-hundreds and everyone was able to jump on for 580. Where those of us who, like me, who paid 680, I think it was, were sort of at a disadvantage. So that's the risk. But I'd like to start Bont. Just the draw and the maybe needing 2 primo rucks now is making it hard.
Geez, his scores make you want to start him, but that price is just so tough.
Yeah.
Yes, Global Draper is injured. There was a bit of miscommunication with that press release by Chris Fagan and what the media reported. There's no new injury. He'll just be ready to go come round 2 or round 1 for Brisbane. So
it has to be a new injury, though. He didn't have a stress fracture in his foot last year.
No,
I think that's
it has to be a new injury. He was doing some training off his Achilles, so I don't know.
I don't know.
But still, I still reckon he doesn't play until after the round 2 bye. I reckon round 3 is his first game.
Personally, I hope he doesn't play until round 7 or something. That makes him relevant at the mid-season sort of mark. But Draper as an F6 is an option. But now he's just not an option as an R2.
Yeah. He's coming off an Achilles injury, which, bringing a sort of an NBA brain into this, most of them, they don't get back on the floor until at least 12 months after, and he's pushing to get back on the field. 9? So probably
it was the reason. I mean,
unlikely, really.
We're all Essendon fans. It was the reason why I didn't care that he went. To be completely honest, he hasn't even played a full season before the Achilles. So now that he's done the Achilles, throwing 900k at a bloke like that is huge risk. Now Brisbane can do it because they've got a gun team, and whether Draper makes it or doesn't make it probably is neither here nor there to them. But I was glad we didn't throw 900 at him.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is a must-haves episode. You just saw Hurls take a sip of coffee. You know it's morning there in Perth. He's just keen to rag the shit out of Draper any chance we get.
Absolutely.
Deadly. Last one before we go, when we're talking about primos, from Kwesi Dilla. Where is the must-have Tino Fa'asuamaleaui? Did I say it right?
All right. Turn this into an NRL show now. I don't think he's a must-have. I think Payne Haas is more of a must-have personally, but I understand he's a good option once he gets the front row duel.
Whatever that means.
You could be talking about some kind of hopscotch in
Irish road bowls.
You've got a good 10-week play in Tino until he gets ready to go to Origin.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us.
I do know who he is. I'm joking, but
that's going to do us for today. If you haven't yet, give us a thumbs up. It helps us here at Between the Arcs. Also, like, subscribe, bell, hype. We love all of that as well. If you're listening to us in audio, 5-star reviews, help us get out to more people that love a little bit of banter along with their SuperCoach knowledge. This is going to do us for tonight. This will be out on audio straight away. But tomorrow and the next day, we've got 2 team previews. One is from a man who's been very active in the social media space, gets around a lot of clubs and has got a lot of notes on every club. So for me and us boys, we're bloody keen to see this guy's team because he has his ear to the ground on all 18 clubs. Who that is, you'll have to see at 8 o'clock tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you're listening to this. So for today, Hurls, Deadly and I signing off. We'll see you then. Peace.
See ya.